Welcome to the All Pop No Culture podcast. This is a little segment we like to call Getting Lost with the Boys. This is our fourth episode, and this week we are covering episodes 7, 8, and 9, The Moth, Confidence Man, and Solitary. It's taken me a while to get this episode out, solely because I'm lazy. Editing the show twice for video has been a little more work than I expected, and like I said, I had stuff to do. But this is the first episode, sort of, where we split it into 3 episodes instead of 2. You'll notice in the middle there's a very unceremonious cut where all of a sudden there's 4 of us talking instead of 3 of us. That's because we only watched 1 episode a couple weeks back, and so we tied that into the episode where we watched 2. And going forward, we'll be doing 3 episodes at a time. So sit back, enjoy. Sorry for the tardiness, sorry for the messiness, and we promise we'll get better. So enjoy. This week, previously on Lost, I'm pretty sure that was cut into all of the episodes. So when you turn on a new episode, it always says previously on Lost, right? And it gives you the preview.
Yes.
Okay. I honestly, I don't remember. Yeah, I don't think, you know what? It's funny. I don't think Hulu has the option to move past it.
Nope.
I know most things do.
It was such an inherent part of the show that when you were watching in that weekly setup, you always got the voiceover dude that said previously on Lost. You got the explanation, and then the episode kicks off. There was no opening credits for the show. There was no theme song.
Nope. And I love that. It's just that noise.
Yeah, you get the Lost shot and then a little sound, and then the show keeps going. So, Andrew, you're all caught up, right? You watched all the episodes.
I'm all caught up. I'm horrible with character names, so
that's okay.
Okay.
I'm finally remembering what each character's name is. I'm finally, because tonight we got the wife and the 14-year-old in on these 2 episodes, so I got to kind of explain what's happened to them a little bit, and I think I may have hooked them into it too.
Nice. So I was going to say, before we jump into the current episodes, since you weren't in our discussion for the last 2 before that, what's your take on White Rabbit and the House of the Rising Sun, where we got a Jack episode and a Jin and Sun episode?
All right. So basically, and also I'm horrible at remembering episodes very compartmentally. I mix them together. But okay, so White Rabbit, remind me what happened in that episode really quickly?
That's the all Jack episode. So it's the first time we get
Jack's
his
dad, basically. All right.
Yeah.
So I mean, so basically crazy, right? I wonder what was that about? I loved learning a little bit about who Jack is as a character, and how his dad was really not a very nurturing
piece of shit. He was a piece of shit.
and I'm wondering how was it I mean, again, we'll find out later, but was it a figment of his imagination that his dad led him to the cave, and then when he gets to the coffin and it's empty, and then Jack loses his shit, but then realizes wait a minute, I don't know, it was just I just took the episode for what it was. I didn't really try to not even overthink, but just overthink what I just wanted to just let it come in. But I think it was a really good it was just really good storytelling in terms of getting them from the beach to a place where they can survive, and to learn a little bit more about why Jack was on the plane, and then who he is as a character. And I think I think a good thing that the show does as well is, and again, maybe other shows have done it, but I feel like Lost did a really good job of it, is it really shows how layered people are. Because you look at Jack as this alpha dude who's confident and just knows what to do. And I love when one of my favorite characters right now, what's his name? Locke tells him, you can't leave unless you know where you're going. And I love that line where Locke is you got to keep doing what you're doing, I'm getting chills just talking about it. strong episode. And but I just want to know what was up with the dad, and was that dad's way of kind of like making peace with his son? Like, yeah, man, I liked it.
And then
I liked them all, but yeah, prod, poke, or just discuss, because that was
and
my
then the next episode was the Sun and Jin episode, the Korean couple, right? And so that one, I always feel like that one gets fewer takeaways because they don't, throughout the show they felt a little more like side characters than main characters.
I'm a little
But
worried now.
that one's really interesting because you kind of get the de-evolution of Jin and why he is such a dick on the island, right?
Yes,
Because in the beginning he was very much, he was, you could tell he was a sweet guy. He was in love
yes.
with her. He wanted to ask her dad for permission to be with her, and then to get it he has to go work for her father, and then it turns out her father is probably you know
Uh,
the Korean Al Capone, right? Like
yes.
he's just, and so you see him. I think the line is, she asks him, what do you do for my father? Because she knows what her dad does. Like she knows who he is. Because you can tell when he says he's going to go work for her father, she's like,
Oh,
she does not want that.
yeah.
And so, she says, what do you do for my father? And he says, I do whatever your father tells me to do. Right. Um, but yeah, those are the two episodes. I think they were pretty solid. I think out of those two episodes, we got our first two like theories from Andy. His first theory was that this is all a government test, like a la MK Ultra, and these guys are all basically locked in a room somewhere and just kind of being forced fed this group hallucination of being on the island. That's his theory. And then his other theory is that Locke is secretly the main character, even though they've been feeding us Jack the whole time. So,
All right. Well, I'm a little worried now because I think I actually, because I was going by even episodes, right? So I want to say like the Sawyer episode is the last one that I saw. So for me, I'm totally one behind. Or am I?
No, you're not.
no,
You're good.
You're good. You're good.
Cool.
Yeah.
You're
All
good.
right. So
that's
it's
episode 8.
all blending together. Okay. I just
Yeah.
want to say that the Rising Sun or the Jin episode, I really liked because I think that's the same episode where you find out that she was planning to like abandon him at the airport.
She learned English. And
yeah, and that for me that was really powerful. Because it's like she really loves him. Like even though she's like he's like kind of a dick and I want out, she just knew she couldn't live with herself. And I really like her as a character. Like she's really winning me over. And yeah, no, and I guess I'll just say it as well. Like I get from a representation standpoint, like I actually really appreciate that this was happening in 2004 or whenever. Yeah, 2004.
Yeah.
Like that's really fucking cool that we actually got, because I would say of all kind of like the groups per se, the Asian, in my opinion, has gotten like the least. So we're literally just seeing Shang-Chi come out now.
Super underrepresented.
Yeah.
Well, the only other one, just to talk about a different show real quick, is Yellowstone. Is the Native American community.
True.
And they're still wildly underrepresented because they will still cast Latinos and Asians in Native American character roles without digging into the community. Like I guess I don't know if you know who Adam Beach is, but he's been been like the Native American actor for the last 15 years. I guess he got really
it's on Law and Order SVU.
Yeah, he got really pissed when they cast there's this pretty young girl in Yellowstone. She's the wife of one of the sons. She's beautiful, but she's not Native American, and she's playing an American character. She's like half Chinese and half white. And so Adam Beach was like,
she had the right
fuck?
look.
They're like, they're like, what the fuck? Why don't you go out? If you're gonna make this show with these characters, why don't you go out and get the right people? And I feel like that's where Lost did do that. Like you have the two Korean characters, which funny enough, I know the actress that played Sun did know Korean, but Daniel Day Kim did not. So he was learning Korean to play. Yeah. So he was learning Korean to play that
gangster
part. Yeah, he's dope too. You have Sayid, who's Iraqi.
Yes.
They really spread out the nationalities on here, it's believable that these people would be on an international flight from
Yes.
Sydney to LA.
Australia to wherever. Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, also just speaking of like again, not Native. Well, she is Native American or Native Canadian actually. But if you watch The Expanse, the actor who plays or actress, but I'll say actor because we say actor now, right? The actor who plays Carmina Drummer, her name is Cara G. She is. I was wondering what her ethnicity was because I'm like she has a look. I thought maybe she might be like Russian or whatever. Thought throw it out there. Sorry, totally random, but Ukraine. Hopefully everything's okay. I'm thinking about you guys just straight up. Side note. But going back, Carmina Drummer. Yeah, I think it's really cool that we're getting again more representation. But I'll reel it back in because I started this tangent. Yes, I loved that episode, and I loved the fleshing out of those two characters. As now, like I knew they were there, but like you said, Kevin, I'm way more invested in their story now.
Yeah,
way more.
Yeah, and I think you get some explanation as to why both of them act the way that they do.
Yes.
Yes. That was my assumptions about them from the beginning, because of the way he's acted towards her and the way he's talked to her, completely wrong.
Yeah, they turn around really quick.
Yeah, I mean, he's still kind of a dick, but I really enjoyed that episode. And it's funny, you talk about, I can't, so I haven't watched Yellowstone yet. It's very interesting that they did that with the casting of that character, though, because you got a movie like the Twilight movie series, where Native Americans are actually a very big deal. They're all the werewolves in the movie. They cast all Native Americans in those roles.
Yeah.
Good.
I mean, it's not that hard to do.
Yeah, it's very.
You're right. I'm like saying that's good, and Kevin's like, "Well, dude, like, yeah, like that's what you're supposed to do." Like,
you put out a casting call for Native American actors, and then you only cast Native American actors. Like, it's not that hard. And this girl, she's beautiful, but like, it's not pivotal that she be beautiful. Like she doesn't have to be. Like there wasn't a reason to go after this one girl. Like she doesn't have a resume that says we have to put her in this part. Like, and God, I've watched enough stuff to know that there are some absolutely stunning Native American women out there. So, like, if beauty was the goal, they didn't necessarily have to cast this girl for it. Like, it's a bummer. But we're off topic.
Yeah,
we'll get back to Lost because that's where we are. But the first episode 7, I believe, is the Moth. It's Charlie's episode.
Yes.
And we finally get to learn about young Mr. Charlie Pace, our rock star drug addict. And
it was funny that you were talking about Dope Sick earlier, because that actually, watching this episode with the 9-year-old, the 4 of us were watching it tonight, and she was like, "So what's wrong with Charlie?" And I got to explain that to her, and we got to have it spurred a nice conversation about drugs with her, which we've talked about before with her. But it was cool because she was like, "Well, what's dope stick?" I'm like, "Well, when you're coming off at certain times of drugs, so we had this kind of fun conversation. She was like, "Oh, yeah, drugs are bad." I'm like, "Yeah, drugs are bad." Okay. And so anyway, go on. Just random.
Yeah, I was gonna say so Charlie's backstory. We have Charlie's backstory, which is one side, which is really interesting. He started off as the good, clean kid that wanted to make music, right? And his brother pushed him harder into the rock and roll lifestyle, and then ultimately kind of became the reason he became an addict, right? Like he started doing heroin because his brother was doing it and he felt like he was trapped, right? And so he gives it a shot, and then soon enough they're in it together, and then come to find out that his brother gets clean and he doesn't, and now his brother is like,
family dude,
all good, and Charlie's still a mess. And so he's running, he's trying to get himself to LA to try and push this record deal without his brother now, because the record label said, "Oh, we'll only do it if Liam is in," and so he's got to go and try and do that. But it's really interesting to see his character go from reluctant musician, rock star, to having his brother kind of manipulate him into where they are, and then kind of leave him in the dust in real life. And now, to Liam's credit, he does at the end there say, "Hey, why don't you come stay with us? We can help you." Blah blah blah. So he's not trying to be shitty anymore, but he was shitty for a while,
Oh yeah.
and that really drove Charlie into a bad place.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I'm into when it comes to anything I watch is I always try to take away something deep. And so when John Locke says, and I had a conversation with somebody about it today, struggle is nature's way of strengthening. I literally emailed that to myself because it's like, I've always looked at life that way, but when they talk about the moth and, look, see his hole in the cocoon, like if I help it, it's not going to survive.
What do you suppose is in the cocoon, Charlie?
I don't know, a butterfly, I guess?
No, it's much more beautiful than that. That's a moth cocoon. It's ironic, butterflies get all the attention, but moths, they spin silk. They're stronger, they're faster.
That's wonderful, but...
You see this little hole? This moth's just about to emerge. It's in there right now, struggling. It's digging its way through the thick hide of the cocoon. Now, I could help it. Take my knife, gently widen the opening, and the moth would be free. But it would be too weak to survive. Struggle is nature's way of strengthening it.
And it was a great storytelling to even have the moth, like, yeah, we can talk about spoilers. Have the moth show up like at the end when they climb out. I think when he throws the heroin in the fire. And so right now, like, I am legitimately, like, I applaud anyone who tries to figure out what's happening. Like, I am definitely more of a, let me just be on the ride for this show. And if I start figuring things out, I will, but right now, I'm still just taking it all in. There is some fantastical shit happening right now.
Yeah.
In this show.
Yeah. Well, it's such a cool episode because, Charlie's another one of those characters that's not like a main guy. Like, he hasn't been in every single episode in your face, but you can tell he's important. And the whole Locke thing with him is great, where he says, "I'm going to give you 3 chances. You get 3 chances, and then I'm going to give it to you. And if I give it to you, then that's on you." And the look on his face at first when Charlie comes back that third time, you can see, like, it's such great acting because you can see that moment of disappointment on his face where he's just like, shit, his kid's really going to do it. And then he turns around, throws it in the fire, and then immediately you see the smile on Locke's face.
Give them to me.
This is the 3rd time. Are you sure you really want to?
I've made my choice.
I'm proud of you, Charlie. Always knew you could do it.
Where he's genuinely proud of Charlie for making this decision. So it's a cool, like, interaction to see too, where Locke is taking care of Charlie.
I also love. Sorry, I'll say one more thing. I also love how he says, "I made my decision." Like, right. I think in the beginning when Liam and him and Charlie were talking, "I made my decision." Like, I think that was Liam who's one of them said it. In the beginning when they're talking to each other in the courtyard. I think so. That was cool little, like,
yeah,
call back there to that.
Yeah.
I loved this episode. I loved the development of the character of Charlie. I loved his backstory and getting to see that. I loved everything he did with Locke. It was another one of those moments, though, where, like, I do get a little bit of Andy with some of it sometimes when I watch it, in just as much as, or just as uh I really feel like on one hand, I love what they did, and it was a great story and great storytelling and great plot point. I think where in reality, if we were just on the island like this, you'd be like, well, use up your shit, bro, because once it's out, you don't have any. So this isn't gonna last. You're gonna hit this at some point. You
Yeah,
can deal with it
I
now or
think
later.
in a real world situation, you would want to take that and give it to Jack and be
That's
like,
what and that was the thing that
this
I
is,
had
yeah,
trouble with at the end, where when he
yeah,
only, I knew that the symbolism needed to be there, and
yeah,
it was the
yeah,
story point, so I ate it. But at the same time, I was like, bro, that's the painkiller anesthetic right there. That is
yeah.
something you need
For
to
what it is,
keep
it's
hold
medication,
of.
right? Like, yeah, you used
Like,
properly by a doctor, you can
yeah, I'm like,
use
just
that
a
as
little bit of
medication.
heroin with somebody who needs, like, like Sawyer, legitimately could have used tiny little bump of that, would have been good for him when Jack was like sewing him up. Like that would have
Yeah,
been, kind of. I think that's in the next episode, but
yeah,
spoiler for the next episode. But yeah, I loved this. I love what this did for Charlie's character. I it was really cool. That locks up the Moth thing again, and I think it's to J.J. Abrams' credit and Lindelof, as much as
Sure.
um there's so much about this show that has the ability to be incredibly cheesy,
hmm,
but it's not.
yeah,
And that is a pure credit to the director and the actor on that, because the words are good, but some of it, like that, the whole little Moth speech wasn't. It was good, but it wasn't like the most eloquently written thing ever. But it was Terry Quinn, right?
Terry O'Quinn, yeah,
That the Terry O'Quinn
he,
just delivers that little thing
yeah, he's so
brilliantly.
good.
He's so good, and I love him. See, he was, and it was a very much a bit character, but he was on West Wing all the time as
Mhm.
a general in the Situation Room. And he's had some major little points in there, and he's one of those guys that you love him in everything he's been in,
Yes,
because he's
for
been in a
sure.
ton of little stuff throughout there. But when this, like, he's a really, really good fucking actor.
Yeah, he actually really
Like,
is.
my boy's got some chops, and he's got it going, because even though we're watching everything he's doing, and realistically, he's a strange character. He's a little aloof to some degree, but he hasn't done anything that would make you think he's a protagonist or an
Mhm.
antagonist in this. Like, he's the bad guy. But my daughter keeps going, Daddy, is Locke's the bad guy, right? Like, he's gonna be the bad guy in this? And I'm like, honey, I honestly don't know, and I just don't know.
Yeah,
I'm like Andrew, you were saying, I think, like, I am part of the fun of this, I think, is mostly because I know it is a mystery. Like, I don't think a lot of people, when this show first came out, we didn't know it was a mystery. You just had some people crash landing on an island. I think that's why it's
The guy
the
from
way it's
Party of Five.
yeah,
That's how
yeah,
that's why I thought
yeah.
of it.
And so I was like, okay, but as it's unfolding, I am like, I'll try and guess a little bit, but I'm really like you, Andrew, where I'm like, I'm just kind of on this ride now.
Yes.
Like, I feel like
Mhm.
I really just want to see where it's going, and I don't like the and I love that they do the flashbacks to explain everybody's story, because he's going, ooh, when are we gonna get Boone and Katie's story now?
Yeah,
When are we gonna see Michael and Walt? When are we gonna see, like, I keep going,
yep.
I can't wait to see Hurley's backstory. Like, I'm seeing these now, and it's like, what has brought these people here?
Well,
And
and at this point too, you now 8 episodes in, you fully understand the structure of the show. You know that
yeah,
there's going to be an episode where shit's going to happen on the island, but you're also going to have an episode that is entirely about one character, and it's going to reveal that character and the things that make them a fucking real person, right? Like,
yeah,
that's the thing
yeah,
too, is like
exactly.
you're revealing the humanity of these characters through these episodes, which I think is really cool. But what else is what I it's so easy to get wrapped up in the Locke and the Charlie of this episode that there's all kinds of other stuff happening within this episode. You have
Yes.
you find out that Shannon's an asthmatic. you see how much Boone cares about her, even though like earlier, like they've nagged at each other and bitched at each other,
They're siblings, right?
and
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
yeah. And you know, and how much they have seemingly not gotten along, but when it really comes down to it, like he's willing to get his ass kicked to try and find the inhalers to help her. You also find out that Sun at least has some medical knowledge. Like she's pretty,
Eucalyptus.
yeah.
Yeah. Straight made like fucking bootleg Vicks.
Well,
Yeah,
I like some eucalyptus
right?
and mud, basically.
Yeah, and so helps out there.
That was though, I will say this, that was the end. That was another one where it had the potential to go, oh look, the Asian lady knows how to make the poultice with the herbs that are going to do the thing.
But it didn't feel that
But
way.
it didn't
though.
feel that way.
Yeah. It could have
Like it had that
helped
potential. But even back then, like I appreciated that I didn't get that vibe.
If they had played like music, like all like that might have done it.
Yeah, like a little flute, like there's a small gong that goes off in the background. There was a montage of her, like somehow she also created
Back
a
in the
full
day when she's
chemistry
learning
set
it
to
for her family, and she's
Yeah.
like cooking it or whatever. Yeah, that would have
exactly. But no, she's just like and they make it and then and they turn and when Jack then goes eucalyptus, like how could I have been so stupid?
Yeah.
It does then turn it off. It does then it, if you will, demystifies it
Yes.
so that it doesn't
Very
become
well
a thing.
put.
Because he's like, fucking
Now,
eucalyptus,
are
of
they
course.
setting
It's
something
Vicks.
up between Jin and Homeboy? Like I'm forget again. What's his name? What's the dad's name? The guy,
Oh, you
Michael.
mean Sun, between Sun and Michael?
or is his name Michael? Yeah. Like I feel like that's something's happening there. Like I don't know. Like I feel like I don't know. I mean, yeah, my jury's out, but they're definitely like the husband does not like it when Sun and Michael are actually like talking. And I feel like there's a certain humanity that they see in each other. Like there's something happening, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like she even said, "I trust you. I know English."
Yeah.
But I think
Yeah.
ultimately it was also because like she wanted to explain what happened. But they keep on exchanging looks, and like she watched his son. I don't know.
See,
It's
interesting. It's interesting you got that from those looks. That's not what I got.
Yeah.
I really got a different vibe off of that. Like I wanted to see that, but it was Harold's face, Michael Harold Perno.
Thank you. Yes.
His acting coming back, that I didn't get that vibe. Like I just, for some reason, I'm not getting, like, I'm not saying he's not attracted to her. I feel like
topless in the. I just feel like they're just setting it up. I mean, I could be wrong, but I just feel like there was just.
I won't tell you what is or isn't going to happen, but I can tell you that when I watched it for the first time, that I was with you. Like I felt like the writers were setting something up. Like there was going to be there's going to be a love triangle. These two are going to find each other more so than they have, because they obviously have a connection of some kind right now, whether it's romantic or whatever. They have a connection, and so watching it the first time, that's the feeling that I got. Like these two are going to, kind of fall for each other. So, and then, but with this episode 2, let's see. Oh, you had the whole Sayid doing the triangulation thing. So you've got the 3 different receivers going up so that they could try and do a triangulation, which everybody gets on board with. Oh, and that's right too. Before, when they're setting out for that, you get another look at Sawyer, because Charlie comes and tells him that Jack is in a cave-in, and Sawyer says, "I'll go tell Kate. I'll make sure she finds out." And so he runs off to tell Kate, and when he gets there, he is going to tell her. But because he's been such a dick all the time, she immediately comes at him with, "Oh, what fucking bullshit do you have now?" and pisses him off. So instead of telling her then, which he was going to do, he reverts to being a dick and doesn't tell her right away. So then later on, when he pops the, "Oh, if Jack had survived" thing, he comes across as the asshole. But in that moment, he was trying to do the right
Yeah.
thing. Like if you watch the episodes beforehand, there's been a few cases. Yeah, he's a dick. Yeah, he's got that grifter feel to him, but he is trying to do the right thing in a lot of cases, and then he just kind of gets stepped on, and so he kind of falls back into being a dick. So they
Well, it's interesting leading into then the next episode.
Mhm.
Not to end this one yet, but it really kind of gives you that like. So this is what happened when a con artist grifter goes into survival mode,
Mhm.
and how they, like how they live. This is what happens when that type of person does that. Because right now, all these people are slipping into their survival modes. If they
Yeah.
aren't, if they don't even realize they are, they're figuring that out and what that is. And I keep wanting to call him Charlie because that was the name of his character on Party of Five. But Jack, like, even with the whole thing with Locke, he's a doctor, surgeon. Like he's
Mhm.
in an ER commanding thing. He's got a commanding presence. He knows how to lead. He does have that kind of natural inborn ability. And you see that, and you start to see these other people and the way they are. Like that was the one thing, with Charlie is this, he's got this redemption now. And I think we're gonna see, I mean, especially as he gets sober here, we're gonna see a different type of Charlie, or I think we may see a Charlie where he's trying to make up for things. Some kind of like he's trying to make amends without even realizing he's trying to make amends.
Yeah.
But again,
Yeah.
that we'll talk more about that when we talk about episode 8.
Yeah, and
Yeah, I like this episode. I thought it was really, really cool.
Yeah, it is. There's, like I said, there's a lot to be revealed, and then the little cliffhanger bit of this one is where Sayid gets knocked the fuck out and doesn't actually get to do his triangulation, but we don't see who does it.
Nope.
So we don't know who it is.
Nope. And that's
weird. And that does a good job leading into the next episode, which is a Sawyer episode, because you have the moment in the cave where Saeed's getting cleaned up. And he at one point is questioning everybody, and he's questioning Locke. And Locke's like, well, the only person that knows where I was is the pig I killed, and was like, he basically says, don't fucking ask me. I'm trying to feed everybody on this island right now, right? Like,
yeah.
And then he says, well, it could have been Sawyer, and they go back and forth about the timed fuse, and then he gives him the knife. Like he basically says, if shit comes down to it, you can defend yourself.
So that, and as a hoodlum in my earlier years, I will say this: I like the idea of what Locke said. Unless Sawyer is an Olympic athlete, the cigarette as a delayed fuse will not work. It's way too short. Having actually done that, when he said that, I was like, I've done that. Like I was like, I know exactly what he's talking about, because we did that once to see if it would work, because it was always a thing. Because you light a cigarette and then all you have to do is stick the fuse in at the base of the cigarette, right above the filter, or at whatever height you want, to be able to, it'll just burn down on its own. And a cigarette just sitting there burning, if there's enough air going to it, if you have it sitting like straight up, it'll take about 5 or 6 minutes to burn down on own. You can get yourself a little bit of a extended fuse on that. Not long enough to run fucking 2K.
Well, and to run up without him hearing and then knock him out. So
yeah.
Sawyer Sawyer's an unlikely culprit, but it's possible. In TV land, it's possible.
Yeah.
But
that was a very interesting moment. Well, plus again, because they kind of set him up that, like obviously you think it's Sawyer, in the next episode, they start setting that up, like or not. They're not setting it up, but the characters are kind of, talking about no, it's in this episode. It's when he, like you said, when he talks to Locke and Locke gives him the knife,
Mhm.
and he's talking about it, and you're like, it doesn't make sense. Like
Yeah.
it just doesn't. There's an easier way to do it. If Sawyer's really feeling that, he's volunteered. He could just fucking fuck up the machine while it's up there.
No part of me thinks it's Sawyer. None. I could be
Yeah.
wrong,
I just
but zero part of me thinks it's Sawyer. It ain't him. Whoever it is, it'll be a
There's-
surprise.
yeah. Although, go ahead onto the go.
Okay,
What
okay.
you were saying, Kevin.
So the episode opens up with a little bit of humorous sexual tension between Kate and Sawyer. When she walks up to him on the beach, he's bathing himself, and he of course confidently comes out of the water butt ass naked, and makes some comments about her warming him up and drying him off. And she makes a great comment about, oh, it must be cold, right?
Oh, but she also goes, you sure know how to make a girl feel special.
Right.
Hell of a book. It's about bunnies.
Must be cold without your trunks.
You bet. How about you come a little closer? Warm me up.
You sure know how to make a girl feel special, Sawyer.
And it was interesting to me because I can't remember right now how it ties in with all the times that I've seen it. But they talk at least a few times about the book being Watership Down.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
as a kid that grew up on the Watership Down animated movie, and knowing that it's a little different than the book, it's interesting because that is all about survival too. The book itself,
Yeah.
it's a book about bunnies, but
Gangster ass
interesting.
bunnies.
yeah. So, anyways, Sawyer and Boone have their dust up, and oh, you know what? I got my episodes backwards. The whole asthma attack thing is in this episode. I don't know why I thought it was in the episode before.
I would never would have even noticed. But it's all good.
Yeah,
but it makes sense
yeah.
actually because
I think because I
what
watched.
Oh,
them
that's
back and
right.
forth.
Quarter was
Yeah.
about.
I did the same because it's only the cave in that's in 7. 8 is when
Yeah,
because
yeah,
8
yeah.
is when they wait.
Yeah, no,
That's
yeah.
right.
The cave in is in 7. So the reason that the inhalers come up in this one is because they think Sawyer has them, and that's why by the end of the episode,
Yeah.
Sawyer's not giving them up. So at first he says that tells Kate that he'll give them to her for a kiss,
For a kiss.
and that's all he wants. And of course she's like, you're a pig, and so she won't do it. And
Are you sure the inhalers weren't teased in the first one though, where she
they were not.
started having it?
no, they were not.
The
'Cause
episode
I-
starts because he's going through his shit. Or no, that was 7, wasn't it?
No, it's 8. It's 8. So
Okay.
that because you start with
Water.
Sawyer on the beach,
Okay.
and then when he's going back to his stuff, he hears something.
Ah,
and
That's
then he
right.
He's
Okay.
doing wrestling around this stuff.
That's right. That's okay. See, again, because like you said, I watched them back to back. They kind of ran into
Yeah,
each other just a
exactly,
little
exactly.
bit. Where
Boom. Yeah.
And so in the now part of the episode and the stuff we're currently experiencing, this whole thing devolves where Sawyer he never says that he doesn't have the inhalers, but he's playing the con game, like he's playing the game, and everybody, and again he's kind of in that defensive stance now where you've put him up against a wall and he's not going to give you what you want, even if it's just to say he doesn't have them. He's not going to do that. And so we find out that Sayid used to get enemies to communicate. That's
torture
his line,
motherfuckers.
right? And so in a very interesting turn for Jack, he agrees to take
Wait,
Sawyer and try and get these inhalers, because torturing Sawyer is maybe the only way to get this medication that is critical to this, patient of his.
It's very interesting
And
that they chose to do that. I think it was just a very interesting choice to me. They actually went through with torturing him. And they actually did it, and they didn't just like make Sawyer kind of like puss out.
but
And
I think that they had to, because Sawyer is giving off that air that it doesn't matter. Like, if you don't do that, he's definitely not going to give you what you want. Like, there's just no way. He's just not going to give it up. You've got that. He has, whether he actually is the alpha, he has that alpha mentality where
Oh yeah.
if he thinks he's in control of the situation, he is 100% in control of the situation.
yeah,
So the one thing I really liked actually was that you talk about alpha. So the alphas
Mhm.
of the island really are Sawyer and Jack. So when they actually started fighting in front of everybody, and Sawyer's like, "So finally gonna do this? Like, we're finally
Yeah.
gonna have this out? It's a Cyclops versus Wolverine." And then Jack realized, because Sawyer was playing the game. This is the civil rights movement. It's all when it comes to the people on the fence, people can't tell who the right person is. So basically, whoever the aggressor is, they're going to end up looking like the bad guy, which is why MLK talked about nonviolent resistance, and Gandhi, same thing. Because if you really want to get people on the fence to take your side, be the victim. And literally just, you see with your own eyes, we're getting hit with these fucking fire hoses. You see with your own eyes, Jack is hitting me. I'm not hitting him back. He's hitting me. And Jack realized it when he looked over and saw them all looking at him like, what the fuck? So he couldn't beat his ass in public, but private, yeah, let's Guantanamo Bay his ass, But I thought it was really interesting and kind of brave to do this on TV during the War on Terror in 2004 with an Iraqi.
yeah.
Like, holy
Oh,
shit.
completely.
And it was tough to watch. For me, it was tough to watch. I'm like, this whole dude.
Well, and I think the best part of it too is that, yes, he does it, right? Like, so they go through with it, but that there's also the end of the episode when he's like, I said I would never do that again.
I can't stay here.
What?
I'm leaving. I don't know for how long.
Sayid, you can't. We still don't know what's out there.
I've worse things to fear than what's in the jungle. What I did today, what I almost did, I swore to do never again. If I can't keep that promise, I have no right to be here.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
now
And he
he's
goes
like,
walking off.
yeah, he's got to go on a walkabout because he can't be that guy again.
Yeah.
And so that's like some character development for him, even though he hasn't had a backstory episode, to see him grow right there and realize that, he just should not have done that. And he knows he shouldn't have done that. He didn't want to do that. And he still went to his baser instincts so quickly.
I got the sense that they might be writing him off. I'm not saying that they're going to do that, but I was a little disappointed. I'm like, maybe it's too cluttered to have, because I actually think that Sayid's an alpha too. So it's like maybe a little too cluttered to have Sayid, Sawyer, and Jack in one room. So let's go ahead and get rid of Sayid, make it a little easier, because all three are also clearly wanting a piece of Kate. Let's just be real. It's just so funny how animalistic we all are. Like, the hottest girl on the island, of course we're all going to fight over her. Hilarious.
Well, I can tell you right now that the producers originally definitely intended to write a love square between
all four.
Between Kate, Jack, Sawyer, and Sayid.
Hilarious.
And that shifts a little at some point. And you'll see how that shifts not too far down the line, I think. But so Sayid goes off on his own. But in the past, what we find is that Sawyer was a con man. You kind of get that feeling from him for a long time. But this is they 100% reveal it, and he's, it opens up with him, starting the con on a married woman, and going down the line. and being very successful at it. He's got a loan shark that's giving him the money, and he's going to get the money back. Um, he's a ballsy con man because he gives the couple the money, right? He gives them the money to keep overnight so that they can feel good about it. And he has their money in hand, and right before they do that where they're handing off the money, they finally reveal Sawyer's note that we've seen him reading a couple of times. It's interesting because it's the whole you took all my parents' money, and so my dad killed my mom, and then he killed himself, right?
Want to know what kind of human being I am? Read it. Read it. Out loud.
Dear Mr. Sawyer, you don't know who I am, but I know who you are, and I know what you've done. You had sex with my mother. And then you stole my dad's money all away. So he got angry, and he killed my mother. And then he killed himself, too.
Don't stop now. Get to the good part.
All I know is your name. One of these days, I'm gonna find you, and I'm gonna give you this letter so you'll remember what you've done to me. You killed my parents, Mr. Sawyer.
And so that was really interesting. And then at the end of the episode, you find out that Kate is smart enough to put it all together, that it's not a letter to Sawyer, it's a letter that he wrote as a kid to a man named Sawyer, whose name he ultimately took when he finally fell into the con man life to get by.
This letter wasn't written to you. You wrote this letter. Your name's not Sawyer, is it?
It was his name. He was a confidence man. Romance my mama to get to the money. Wiped him out clean, left a mess behind. So I wrote that letter. I wrote it knowing one day I'd find him. But that ain't the sad part. When I was 19, I needed $6,000 to pay these guys off I was in trouble with. So I found a pretty lady with a dumb husband who had some money. And I got him to give it to me. How's that for a tragedy? Came the man I was hunting. Came Sawyer. Don't you feel sorry for me?
And so when the little kid shows up in that episode, right before he's about to walk out of that with that money, it almost feels, because I think at that point they hadn't revealed that the note was
Correct.
was about him as a kid. So you get the feeling that that's the kid that the note that maybe wrote the note, but instead he bails. And not only does he bail, he leaves his own suitcase behind too. He leaves all of the money and leaves that kid.
He's on the run.
Yeah.
Which is
but
now
that's how freaked out he is.
But that also, though, it's very interesting because that also gives rise to a question about, well, maybe he worked it out somehow and Sawyer was the one that hit Sayid, because they're right. He wants to stay on the island. Yeah. He wants to sabotage going away because Sawyer's running for his life. We don't know what's brought him to Australia yet, but I'm assuming, because that one dude straight up said, I will fucking kill you.
I'll end you. if you don't have my shit by
Mhm.
tomorrow at noon.
Yeah.
Plus,
Yeah.
was it plus 50% or something?
Yeah.
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 So Sawyer's running from something.
Yeah.
So I think it has established motive for him to actually have done that to Sayid.
Wow.
Again, I don't know how he could have done it,
Yeah.
like with the allotted time. Again, also, if you're a smoker and you're like running out of cigarettes like that,
you're holding on.
you're
to
not
every
you're
last
not yeah
one.
you're not gonna waste that shit on a
Nope.
fucking decoy. That's some junky shit right there. No.
So and
No.
then that's, I mean, that's and that stuff is the bulk of this episode. Like you learn a lot about Sawyer again, and it's funny enough in this one. I think you learn the most about his past from the note in the present than you necessarily do from the past episode, which shows what he can be. But when you find out the why of why he is the way he is from the note and Kate, whereas in previous episodes you kind of start to unravel the character from their past. This past is just kind of who he is, and so it's a trip. It's a really interesting breakdown of Sawyer between what happened in the last episode and then this one.
And
And
I don't understand people who, like, again, this is why I also like I describe like the Wolverines or the Rebels and the the straight arrows. Like, I'll never be a rebel. Like, okay, like, I don't understand why you would just I understand the whole tortured, pained. I get that, but why would you just sign up for more of it? Okay, like, why would you sign up to be stabbed in the fucking arm? Why would you sign up to get bamboo like shit in your fucking fingernails? Why are you always picking the rough road? Like, what is wrong with you?
right.
And then
And
when the hot girl is like actually feeling genuine emotion for you, you're like, don't pity me.
yeah,
You're like,
yeah.
what's wrong with you, dude? Like, why are you making your life so difficult? Like, she might actually, like, dude, like, anyway. And then, like, getting socked in the face after the makeout session, like, but I think people eat that shit up. Maybe, who knows? But either way, Sawyer reminds me of how you really, it's a tale as old as time. Never judge a book by its cover, but still, there are so many layers to that dude that you just didn't even remotely like fathom until this episode. So well done to Lindelof and Abrams, but I'm giving it more to Lindelof, actually. I think Abrams is good at, like, kind of creating a space for something, but as far as depth goes, I think that's Lindelof's territory. I'm hooked. All right, I just had my praise moment, but yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting too that because when he gets stabbed in the arm, he could die. Like, he could die
Oh, yeah.
because of where stuff. And so Jack, like, purposefully keeps him alive, does everything he can to keep him alive, to save him, because that's what he does. He's the doctor, he's the savior. And Sawyer in that moment is like, I would not do this for you. And it's almost like he's trying to push Jack into letting him die, right?
Yes, he wants
Um,
it.
Right. Yeah.
and then Jack ultimately does sew him up and save his life. And so you kind of still get the idea that Jack is the good savior guy, and Sawyer's the broken shitty guy. Like, he's a broken dude. He can't keep his anger in check. He can't make the right decision. Like I said, with Kate, he was there, he was doing the right thing, and they got a little snatchy with him, and he said, you know what, fuck you, Jack can die. It's kind of like, and so he's a deep character. I like Sawyer a lot.
Same.
He's really interesting. So so we're at the end of these two episodes. We're rolling. Let's see. Sayid just bailed. Sawyer's alive. Locke is feeding everybody. Jack is saving everybody. You got Charlie and Claire having their little moment on the beach where he convinces her to come to the caves with his fake jar of peanut butter.
Yeah.
That was kind of a cute moment.
It was.
It was cute. It was corny. It was a little much, but it was cute. It worked.
But this is where, when we get to what I was talking about earlier, where Charlie seems to start to be making amends. Like, I know he is also genuinely a nice guy, and he's talking to Claire just because he's a nice guy, but he's kind of taking care of this pregnant lady who feels like she can take care of herself, and just kind of taking it upon himself to. It feels like Charlie's going to be her protector.
Charlie has always felt useless. I feel like that's also
Yeah.
a thing that with him. And even when he was getting like replaced by his brother as kind of like the lead singer, like I sing lead on that chorus, whatever.
Yeah.
So I feel like Charlie's a very deeply insecure dude. And I've known people like that and who absolutely want to feel not useless. So I feel like he's finding purpose. And maybe that's maybe read into this. Maybe that's one of the reasons why people even fall into drugs in the first place. Like maybe they feel like, what am I doing here? Like, what is the point of my existence? Let me just fucking, do drugs and then and feel something, because otherwise I'm like useless. I don't know, but I like his character because he went from being useless to actually being useful by actually going into the cave. Even when he said like, no one, I don't have any attachments, like he's really finding himself, he's finding his purpose, and I love it. I'm here for it.
Yeah, for sure.
That entire sequence was so much fun to me. I really enjoy this character, especially when they show where he was as, like you were saying, Kev, like that straight up Catholics. Well,
no,
Anglican. Yeah, but I think they're
Anglican and the British.
Not Catholic. Yeah. But just starts in communion, and you're listening to it, and you're like, he's confessing, to having a threesome.
Yeah.
And then saying he thinks that, and he's made up his mind that he's going to quit the band because, it's
well, what I liked about the confession too is that it's not him being a dick in confession. Like sometimes in a movie you would see somebody come in and do that just to like taunt the priest, and he's not like, he's genuinely like kind of torn up about the fact that he did this, because he's not that guy.
No, yeah, you're expecting, you're in that moment, and if it was any other like TV show or movie, it would have been like, oh yeah, Father, I put my finger up her butt, and there was like, it would be some outlandish shit that you'd be like, what?
Yeah.
Wait, this is supposed to be, this is like the, supposed to be the funny moment, and then the priest freaks out and like, hits him with with an incense censer, or to that day's missile or whatever.
Yeah.
But they don't do that. They keep it like legitimately like how someone would talk to their priest, with a little bit of reverence and questioning. So I just a great job all around.
Yeah. And then so that means next week we get episodes 9 and 10.
Yeah.
Yes.
We get the episode 9 is titled Solidarity, and number 10 is titled Raised by Another. So I'm looking forward to those, especially the next one. Actually, both of them. There's some really interesting stuff that happens in the both of those, but the next one is interesting based on some stuff you guys have said. So if you don't cheat and look ahead, it'll be interesting to see what you come with.
No cheating allowed. Go.
It's fun doing it like this, actually, letting it go ahead, because I'm very tempted to. Like, there's part of me, like I said, only because I've kind of got the family also a little hooked on it. There's part of me that is tempted to like watch ahead, but I'm like, no, I'm digging this 2-episode a week thing, and I'm trying to time it so I watch it kind of, like today I finished a half hour before we started recording.
Wow.
Like, okay. So it's been nice and fresh in my mind, and this show is like, I get why it was the water cooler thing that it was. Like, this is a solid recommendation. Not just because we've made it a fun little segment on the show, but because it's rare that, at least in my experience, that something gets so hyped up the way it is, and you hear that it's so amazing from so many people, that when you go and watch it, it's kind of less than, because you've heard how friggin' good it is, and then you watch it and you're like, yeah, it's good, but this is paying off for me the whole time. I've heard from a lot of people, not just you and Alex,
And David.
I've heard from and David. Oh, that's right. I forgot to. And other people, just other people in my life have been like, dude, you haven't watched Lost?
They look at me like, what the hell, dude? What's
Yeah.
wrong?
Yeah.
You love this
And
show.
it is. It's like it really, really lives up to the hype of what it was.
So Kev, since this was your idea to actually have us do this so far, how was this experience for you as far as someone who's watched the show and now seeing people's,
It's just cool. I mean, half of it, not even half of it, but part of it is seeing what you guys come up with as far as, what you think is happening, what you think the characters are, things like that. Because again, I know what's happening. I know now, granted, like I think I've said it before, I've watched the show a few times and I don't know everything. Like there are people out here that are like scholars that have watched the show like 20 times. Like there's some crazy people that know some crazy shit. But I feel like I know enough of the answers that I speak to them with confidence.
Here's what I'll say. Actually, I'm sorry, did you cut you off? Like, I right now think they're in purgatory. I mean, I feel like it's got to be. I remember hearing the purgatory theory, and like maybe that's what it is. Because I remember there's a scene where, like, there's no way we should have survived. Like, no,
that was actually in the episode where they're doing the triangulation. It's just and it's funny that they said they wrote that in there because that's what the audience was saying. Like everything that they said is everything the audience is saying. Like they just shouldn't be alive, but they are.
Yeah.
Right?
So to me, it's like they're in purgatory, and this is fucking purgatory. And
I can tell you that there is a definite answer to that. Whether you're right or wrong, there's a definite answer to.
And that's a guess based on what I've seen so far. So it's still early. So
yeah, I think this is around the time when people started making that same prediction when it was on. Cool. Like they're dead, and this is, purgatory or hell, or however you want to look at it. It's them.
And John's like, there's your guitar. Look,
yeah.
John Locke is not human, dude. No, he is human.
Yeah.
Because we saw his story. Anyways.
Yeah.
All right.
So yeah. So it is not an uncommon theory. So yes, that's our loss. I'm glad you guys are doing this. Like I said, I get a lot out of it. Number one, watching it again. Number two, watching it through the eyes of people that haven't seen it. And then number three, the entertainment of seeing you guys be either right or completely wrong about things or all that. Like that. I love it.
I'm impressed you've been able to keep a good poker face.
Dude, I have to. Like for me, I can't give anything away. Like there's stuff that
I couldn't be you. I'd be like this the whole time.
Yeah, no, exactly. I'd be like, you guys do want to tell me anything. After the fourth episode, I would have been like, oh, I just can't hold it anymore. Locke is Satan, and this is actually hell. And like just saying some outlandish shit, and I'd be like, oh, wow.
Yeah, this is the good place.
All right.
Yeah. So cool. Let's smoothly make that transition. So so we will start talking about still my favorite show, Lost. And so let's see. So a couple of things to deal with. Andrew is terrible at homework, we found out, and has only watched one episode instead of two. So, and that may benefit us because it's a little late. But also, Andy is a few episodes behind.
No.
With regards to our show.
Okay. Yes.
So you, Andy, get us caught up on your opinions on The Moth and Confidence Man, which are the Charlie and Sawyer episodes from last week. What takeaways do you have? Because let's see, where we are at with you is that you believe that everything is a government experiment, a la MK Ultra, and these guys are all living in a box somewhere.
So I don't not still feel that way. I do still feel that this is MK Ultra adjacent for sure. I I still struggle with the fact. I mean, I like the fact that they're, doing things the correct way and like, oh, let's go to the caves because that's where we have constant water and shelter. Like that makes sense. But the fact that they hadn't mapped the island yet, I'm like, oh, come on, shit.
7 days.
At least I would have done that the first day. I mean, I would have done it at least. Yes, I would have done that in the first 7 days for sure. At least had an expedition to see what else might be on the island that could be.
Fucking Vasco da Gama over here.
Yeah, aren't you the same guy that said you wouldn't go into the forest? You would stay on the beach?
No, I would go into the forest, but no, I wouldn't go in the forest without water. Like I just wouldn't just go. I would just. My point is, I get it. I'm enjoying it. I still feel like it's straight up MK Ultra. I still feel like it's everybody has their own. We're experiencing everybody's individual acid trip, and I like it. I'm in. I'm all for it. They're all experiencing all of their worst nightmares or their worst fears, or what it could have been gone the other direction. If it was the best thing that ever happened to them too, not just the worst thing. But yeah, I do feel like we're reviewing their acid trips at this point.
Okay, I dig that. I see on that.
So with that in mind, Charlie's episode, the Moth, was the first one that you did not speak with us about, and that is Charlie and his heroin addiction, and that is Jack in the caves and the cave collapsing.
Yes. So I loved the heroin. I loved asked me 3 times for my drugs, and then he threw it in the fire. Big fan, huge fan. I dug that a lot. I love the character development of him. Watching episode 9, which is now he's suddenly okay and not on drugs anymore, and he is trying to be like a family man. I struggled with a little bit.
Well, we can talk to that when we get to episode 9.
Now, the one thing to remember, the one thing just to keep in mind, is that we are watching a story. Okay, there's 45 survivors or whatever. We're watching a story about a dozen people, give or take, that we care about, right?
Yeah.
We're not going to see every interaction. So the times when Charlie is going through his shit, we're not always going to see it. We will see it. I can tell you that right now. You'll see him be messed up. Like everybody, it's like you said in the first episode when you said they didn't take any water, but they did take water. They just didn't show us take the water, right? Is what it comes down to. Like the things that you don't see aren't necessarily not happening. Again, it's like 24 when Jack Bauer for 24 hours doesn't use the restroom. Like, I guarantee you somewhere in there he used the restroom. We just don't see it because we don't care. Like the story that you're telling isn't necessarily everything that happens on screen. So like in the Moth, you've got Locke skinning another boar, but they didn't show him catch that boar. It's there. Like the implication is there that it happened. So that's just one of those things that you got to keep in mind. We're because we're juggling so many people in a 1-hour show. There's a lot that's happening that we don't see. So be patient on Charlie's withdrawals. He'll have them. Yeah.
So that was going to be my comment. If we're leading right into like episode 9 there like that, was that he didn't like it was really fast for him to be feeling so good. But then again, it's also not, because he's gotten that 3-day kick and he's clean, but he's not he hasn't worked through any of the issues of addiction. He hasn't, there's a lot more to go with.
Well, and I think knowing people that have struggled with addiction, I think his new addiction is taking care of Claire. Like that's his.
Oh yeah, he switched
addiction
hard.
Isn't always chemical.
He's replaced. He's replaced.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But anyways, we're talking about Andy's experience. So
yes,
keep going with those 2 episodes before we get to episode 9, because you talk about Charlie and you talk about what he went through, and that's great. And I agree. I loved the three choices, like the three times. I think that's brilliant. And we talked about it last week too. It is kind of shitty that they let him throw it in the fire instead of taking it over to Jack and repurposing that as medicine, right? Like you have something that honestly, if they had it, would have helped a whole lot when he was trying to work on the Marshall.
Exactly.
You know, like that would have been very beneficial to be like, here, buddy.
Yep.
You know, let's get you high as shit so I can cut you open and you won't care. You know.
Fair enough.
But yeah,
the Sawyer stuff too. I'm struggling with Sawyer a little bit because
You're supposed to be.
Yeah, it's almost too much poor me. I almost want him to be the asshole rather than be this guy he's the tortured person. He's the tortured person that kind of went sour and was a confidence man for a skosh, you know. I want him to be the bad guy. Like I want him, but he's kind of not the bad guy. So like when he kissed her, or when she kissed him, I guess actually is the correct way to say it.
Mm-hmm.
I was happy that happened because I was hoping for the payoff, which was here's where, you know, X, Y, and Z is. But then when it was like I don't have it, it almost annoyed me because it was like you're almost too much of a shitty person now. You're like, at least let them have the good stuff. Let them have the drugs that they need, rather than I kiss you and like he almost lacks any redeeming quality, right? For me right now, he has there's no purpose for him to be there. There's no redeeming
Can I
quality.
jump in here for a second? So I at the end of last week's show, something I forgot to mention, but you guys totally on text, like I think you guys, it resonated. I said the kiss, you know, that happened, it seemed real. Like I think
sure.
Sawyer absolutely knows there's a connection. There is definitely jealousy between Jack and Sawyer. Like he knows, he's not a dummy. And he's the bad boy, you know, and we all know that bad boys, women, like they love that shit. I think a lot of them, it's like catnip. So it's like, I think Sawyer basically is like, I'm feeling you, man. And this is my way of showing you just how much I'm feeling you. Like I'm walking out the water naked, you know, you can diss me and I'm just going to keep trying. I'm vulnerable here, baby. Like I'm just trying to be, you know, I'm trying to tell you Jackson a cave earlier and you just be mean to me. Like I like you. And this is my way of telling you I like you. So I liked that. I actually did. And the way she kissed him, man, she made out with him. She just gave him a kiss. It was like, she was like, boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
So I felt like I think
that was a steamy TV kiss for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. It moved when that happened. Yeah. It was a good kiss, but
yeah.
And Andrew, everything you just said, I could not agree with you more. It's everything I felt and I agree with, but what redeeming qualities are left now though? What's left? And that's where I'm with right now. I don't know, like, what does he have? He's no longer a bad boy because we know he's actually a good guy with, you know, like he doesn't have the drugs.
Damaged.
Like
he's damaged.
What's left? Like, I don't know what value. Clearly we're episode, for me, 10, you 9, but we're episode 10 in, and he no longer has any value left for me. Like, I don't know what value he has.
Sawyer?
Yeah. What besides being a strong man, what value does he have?
I think
sorry, go.
I think actually right now in that moment, that is all the value he needs. You know, I think one of the interesting things between him, you know, about the idea of him and Kate in so many ways is that Kate is a bit of a con person herself. We still don't 100%. Know her whole story. You know, she was very much into Jack and is still kind of liking Jack, you know, and seeing that. And I gotta watch what I say because some of this is going to relate to episode 10. So I gotta.
That's cool. I'll be fine. I read the synopsis.
No, I don't. It's fun.
Okay.
I think she's. Excuse me. I think Sawyer is going to wind up really mattering, though.
Agreed.
Well, and you got to think too that just in the scheme of any given story, Sawyer is not just a one-time con man. He didn't just pull this one con, right? Like he's been doing it. He says that as much to Kate, is that he found out he can do this and he's good at it. So he may be shitty, but he knows what buttons to push in people. Like when
it's like if Dirk Diggler chose violence when he woke up that morning.
Well, it's like Andrew said last week, like when Sawyer picks that fight, he's not picking the fight because he wants to throw down. He's picking the fight because he knows that now everybody's going to see Jack come after him. It's a power play. He understands people. He knows how to get what he wants out of people. So he may be a piece of shit, right? But he knew what he wanted to get out of Kate, and he got it.
And it's interesting.
And so that's going to apply in multiple situations, right? Like that's just if that's your skill set, you can play that skill set for good or for bad, right? Like you have a fundamental understanding of people and what they want. That's what makes a con man, or a good con man, right?
With great power comes great responsibility.
No shit.
Well, but then that in some ways that leads us right into episode 9, Sayid's episode, because you've got now Sayid leaving at the end of 8 because of what he did to Sawyer, which makes, I hate to say it, let's be real, even though Sawyer's an asshole, getting tortured instantly makes you a vulnerable character and a sympathetic character to the audience. Sawyer's still an a-hole, but there's a little less of an edge. And again, we won't talk about that because that's in episode 10 when we really see him next. But Sayid is that's a rough story we get with Sayid here. We've got
because the episode opens up with him holding this woman's picture, right? And you can tell this picture is important to him. He cares about the person in the picture, right? And so, Pete, are we keeping you up over there on the West Coast?
No, sorry. No, keep going. It's 3 a.m. I know.
Wait, just give me a pause for a second, because I don't want to wreck it for Andrew. Where did episode? Where do we stop?
Where 9 end? I believe Sayid basically is let go by Rousseau, the French woman, and then the golf game happens, and I feel like
okay.
That's where it ends. But I liked how Sawyer shows up at the end of the golf game. I was like, he's kind of like rebuilding, and I liked that. But keep going.
Okay, all right. So I appreciate that, because again, it goes back to there's like a whole person on this island with tons of technology and weapons and all these things that we just found, right?
I don't know if she has tons of technology. She has a couple of car batteries and a couple of rifles.
And a broken whatever box.
Music box.
Yeah.
Music box.
But that's more than the rest of them got,
But she's been there for 16 years too.
Yeah. It does. I do find it funny. Like when I did see the wire going to the water, I'm like, hydroelectricity. Like, yeah, they should do that. That they could get power that way. Not that it's hydroelectric, or maybe it is. We don't know that yet. But it is. I don't know. If anything, that showing that we have a whole person that we haven't seen before, living on the island for 16 years, to me only gives me more MK Ultra feel, but perhaps maybe less that, like, initially I thought they were all on the mainland somewhere, like the plane had landed, they all been drugged and they're all under all sorts of drugs and they're doing these experiments. Like every episode we're watching is somebody else's experience in under the MK Ultra. But now that we saw that, I feel like everybody's on this island and they're all just drugged up, and we're all just experiencing their experiences. I mean, she is high as fuck, right?
You're just crazy. 16 years on an island by yourself.
I mean, that's what the show says, but we don't know that's
what
true
we're
or not.
watching. She's a very interesting character. She is definitely coming across as a crazy person, right? Like she definitely is given that vibe that she has been alone for far too long, right?
I was getting Misery vibes, like is it like Misery with
right?
James
Totally.
I can't let you go. I will break your legs.
That's so accurate. Oh wow, I didn't even think about that. That's so right.
And then then she talks about the whispers, and then at the very end of the episode, right before our Lost logo drops, Sayid hears the whispers out in the woods.
That was creepy.
So there's trippy stuff going on.
Is she pivotal, Kevin?
I don't know. You tell me.
She's gonna be. Oh, completely.
I didn't even
look her up in IMDb.
Any question you want. If it didn't happen in that episode, I'm not telling you.
I didn't look her up on IMDb. I could tell, even if she's not one of these people who's going to be in every episode till the end, she is now the castaways like connection to the island. She is the first conduit in. She was the first, thing they found of evidence that they had other people, and lo and behold, she's alive. And she talks about the whispers, but there's other people on this island. There's other people on this island.
Yeah, but I know just from being an adult in real life, like Locke was a big part of the show. In the first 10 episodes, he's been sprinkled in at best, right? So this person that we just saw for the first time, I don't know. She could disappear next episode.
Yeah, but I agree with you. But I would hearken to also I don't know if we're going to see her in the next episode. Well, I know anyway. But going down the line, I mean, think about it like this: if you actually go back and look at Game of Thrones, I believe we actually meet like Ramsay Bolton kind of early on in a season before he even becomes Ramsay Bolton.
Right, dude. I totally forgot about that. Because wasn't that was a hot dog scene, basically?
Yeah. He's just a throwaway character at a point. He's the adopted bastard son of this one guy. And until they start to really flesh him out and give him anything, he doesn't become Ramsay Bolton. He's just some asshole that looks like he's going to fade away because they don't feature him. They never really highlight him. So they give us this lady, and she's going to be, maybe not right now, but it's going to come back. She's going to come back, and she's going to be, well, let's be real. Sayid, is going to get back to camp, or I can't forget he's going to make it back to camp at some point, and he's going to tell these, the other castaways about, the fact that he met someone. There's another human. I met the French woman. Like he's
Yeah, I mean that's big news, right? He met the woman that they know exists. Everybody knows
I'm sorry,
the French woman's there.
I would be surprised if in the next couple of episodes we don't have a group going and trying to talk to Rousseau. Like there's got to be, and no, Andrew, I'm not giving anything away for episode 10. I really think that's going to be the focus of an episode within the next 3 to 4 episodes. Is okay, whatever happens. We're gonna go find this lady, and I don't know if she's gonna get brought into the fold or if she's going to instantly
be killed.
or not be killed, but like instantly start opening up new doorways and unraveling little things that we don't know yet. Because we got to remember, guys. So we're looking at, this isn't like we're on episode 10 once Andrew
We're not
catches
even
up.
halfway through the first season.
Yeah, we're barely halfway through the first season yet. But in that same respect,
She-
we're almost halfway through the first season.
She has to be
it's-
killed. There's no way she's not killed.
Oh no, I think she'll be killed eventually. We might see the end of her at the end of the first season, but I think she is going to be a very important, pivotal character for these people for the big chunk of something. I don't think it's going to be one of these things where we see her again and like, the PTBs or whatever kind of weird umbrella corporation type thing is going on this fucking island, that they're just gonna fucking knock her off right away. Like there's gonna be a lot that she's used for first.
You know what's hilarious, Andrew, is I think that I stopped watching when you stopped watching, because I am saying everything that I know, and I don't think it's crossing your barrier. So I think I fucked up too. I think I only watched through episode 9.
Okay, let me. Well, hold on. Then
That's
here,
awesome.
no light spoiler. Do you remember anything about Claire's baby or nightmares?
Oh, okay, yeah.
But
Yeah,
but that nightmare did show up in 9 too. I mean, not like whole straight up nightmares, but she does wake up and then she's all like, "What's going on?" Like, or I don't know, whatever. All I know is I definitely didn't see 10. Anyway, I'll just jump into the fact that I honestly didn't really like Sayid until episode 9. I thought Sayid was a bit of a dick. Like he was very like, he just always thought he was right. He was kind of condescending to the other camp members. He stabbed Sawyer in the fucking bicep, I think.
In the artery. He almost killed him.
Artery. Yeah. And like he seemed to almost enjoy torturing him. I didn't like the fact that, is his name Michael, the guy Harry Perrineau?
Yep.
When he goes, "What did you do?" I'm like, man, fuck you, Sayid. Like, so basically, I'm just like, I don't like you, okay? But man, what integrity! Like the fact that I'm getting chills just talking, I keep getting chills, man. The fact that like you are working, obviously, I think the Kingsguard or something like that. You're torturing someone who you actually had a crush on. I even love the fact that he said, I was too young to understand that being pushed on the ground meant you liked me. Like that was just such a human moment. I could totally, it made me think back to elementary school, right? Yeah, I definitely got bullied by like girls. I had no idea, right? Too dumb. Anyway, and then like it's palpable, it's real. He then risks his own life to like save her. I'm not convinced she died. I didn't get that she died from that episode, unless I'm just not paying attention, which is totally possible. But like,
oh no, and he even says it.
Okay,
he even says it when
he says he's responsible for her death, but they don't show it.
Oh yeah, he says he said that.
So at least at the very least,
well,
he believes that she's dead.
Yeah,
right? That's what we have to go on, is that he believes she's dead.
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought he actually said something later in the episode where he talks
he
about
does say
she may be
dead.
out there somewhere.
Oh, he does. Okay.
Or he'd like to think that she was out there somewhere still. I could have just
no.
messed
And
with
then he's talking about the quote on the back of the picture.
Okay.
When he tells her what it says.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
That's well, and again, and this is one of the wonderful things that this show does do, is that we've only got like flashback stuff, from some of these characters, like with half of their story or a third of their story. We still don't know. Like we know the kind of asshole thing Sawyer did. We don't know why Sawyer's actually getting out of town, though. We're assuming it's because he owes these guys money.
Yeah.
Like that's his thing. Jack's the only one Jack right now is the only person's story that we know completely. Not necessarily like what he did,
Locke's
like
too. You know why Locke was on his way back. You know why he went and why he
exactly. Like we went why he was on his way back, but that's it. or okay, June as well.
Yes, I was gonna say.
Son, I mean, but there's still like the other like main characters. Like we still have an idea of, but we haven't gotten any sort of a flashback from Michael and Walt. We know why he was there. We know the mom died, but we don't like there's more to their story. That's the one interesting about this show that I'm finding. Oh, and that's why I can't wait till you watch episode 10, Andrew, because there's very it's funny, but at the same time you're like, what? Once it hits the end, fucking Canadians. So you that'll make more sense when you watch the episode. It's I forgot what I said because I took that time to talk shit to you. Yeah.
I too don't think I've watched episode 10. I really, at this point, I feel like I did, because I remember like the pregnancy part, but
no. Okay, so I think you may be right. I think there's a nightmare.
There's a reference in the for pregnancy in episode 9,
and like the very end of like in the very end of 9, she's having a nightmare. Yeah. Okay, that's good then, because that'll bleed into episode, that bleeds right into 10 then. Yeah, then you probably haven't, Andy, which is okay. That's good. We could talk about that next week. But
we're in sync, baby.
Sayid, I think it's very interesting because that's all we know now. Like let's be real, of his backstory, we know that, right? But that's still in Iraq. We have no idea why he was in Australia. We have no idea how he's now survived. Like he's given this girl this gun. He shot himself in the leg. He's shot his superior.
Killed him. Like without even, it was just like boom. Like what? And
also, even that, like if he was part of the Imperial Guard, not Imperial Guard, but whatever.
Republican Guard.
Thank you. Imperial. I'm thinking Star Wars. Republican Guard. I think it's probably Republican Guard in Star Wars too. I mean, even when this show was produced, that would have been 10 years at least prior to that. So his Republican Guard status would have been way in the past. It's not like he got on the plane as escaping Republican Guard. Like that would have been 10 years ago at least.
Wait, actually I'm not sure, because I mean I don't. It seemed like it was wartime stuff, so it could have been the Iraq War or maybe the Iran-Iraq War.
But it was also it was also internal crimes, right? It wasn't she was American and he was taking her in. So
okay, so a while ago. Okay, all right.
This was still past 2001.
Okay, that's fair then, because I mean the show is 2006, so it's relatively recent.
There was no Republican Guard in 2006.
No, for sure.
They did not exist anymore. So I guess depending on, and so in real time, 2006, depending on when this show was supposed to be in time.
Contemporary.
It's 2006. It takes place at.
If it was taking place in 2006, then Republican Guard didn't exist past 2001. So
Saddam Hussein was still in power until 2003.
Exactly.
So it was only it could have been just a couple of years.
Yeah. Whatever it was.
So definitely not 10 years. That's why I jumped in.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
So I'll just say it was a really good, for me, I really got a sense as to, I'm glad Sayid is on the show. Even the way he handled Rousseau when she was going to like shoot him. And he was almost like, I forgot what he said, but it was something to the effect of like, whatever, I'm good. I'll be reunited. Like he just showed how selfless he kind of was. Quotes the picture. So I was just kind of like, you know what? Yeah, I hope I'll meet you in the other life or whatever. I think this is what
exactly. Yeah.
Oh, and that was the other thing. I mean, not only because I just looked her up on IMDb, so I know how many episodes Emily Rousseau shows up in.
Stop doing that, dickhead.
No, I knew. I'm actually well, forget. I'm not even gonna say that.
Yeah, don't tell
But
us.
we know
doing it,
they're
dickhead.
gonna go back there because they made a point of showing you that Sayid left a picture of
Yeah.
her on
Yeah.
the table. So they're gonna go back to her, little townhome in the jungle at some point. And it's going to be more than just Sayid because he's told people about her now. Which that was wait, does that take place in?
Yeah.
No, that doesn't.
You're on a roll right now, buddy.
Yeah, I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop because I was about to start talking about 10 without even realizing it. Because I remember that's right. I remember where Sayid is at the end of 9 now. Okay, so yeah, I'm going
Hearing the
to.
It
voices.
literally ends with him having just left
Yeah.
Russo's camp, and he hears the voices and the whispers in the jungle.
Freaky.
That's right.